Good evening. We'd like to acknowledge that we're gathered on the traditional territory of LUPQP1 Fort William First Nation, and it is also the traditional gathering place of many members of the Métis Nation and other Indigenous people. So welcome.
Welcome.
You want to?
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome back Christy.
Thank you. I did put into my courses a little note just letting folks know I had been away for a while. My father had passed. I did want to thank all the many condolences and really kind thoughts. All that has really sustained us through this time, so I appreciate it. But we're back and here to make a few comments on modules 3 and 4, which are upcoming 4.
So one of the key pieces which I always find interesting is how fat that book is. It's about that big. And the website, if you've been on it, is also equally large. When we talk about legislation and the responsibilities of a principal, duties of a teacher, is a small portion of that. What I find interesting, and I think most people find, well, some of it might seem common sense because it's the practice of how your schools run. It's based on actual legislation. That's the reason why we run things a certain way. With that, I had a conversation just recently with a colleague administrator about the fact that we are responsible for knowing everything in that book. And the reality is we often don't know everything in that book. So I've myself had to deal with a few cases around the Ministry of Labor in particular over the years. And the one thing that has always, I guess, helped me through that is the fact that I've had really tight process in my schools. And that's based on schools' policies, schools' procedures, which are grounded in the legislative pieces. So while, you know, we have the big Carswell book and there are important pieces in there, I didn't often have to go to there if I adhered to the school policies and procedures. Now, that being said, take the time to read them in your board. It becomes very critical. And I will tell you, when you're sitting there possibly facing, you know, a $10,000 fine or a $3,000 fine, working with union groups, yeah, there, like the list goes on. You need to be able to say, I followed board procedure, I followed the process. I met with my superintendent and we've met with the board lawyer and we had a plan that we rolled out. We did follow due diligence because saying I didn't know or I didn't read that or oops, I didn't see that is not an excuse. They don't care. So it really comes down, I think, for us as we've learned to, I had a director by the name of Terry Elwood. Some of you might know him. He had a phrase he was fond of saying, and he used to say, panic slowly. So really when you get into a situation, thinking about problem solving, do your homework, read everything you get your hands on, consult with your colleagues, consult with your superintendent. If you're superintendent for our board, you have to link through the superintendent to the director to get to your board lawyer. The principals group, CPCO and OPC in Ontario have really strong legal teams that you could go to it for advice as well. But you really want to take the time before you make a decision, react, comment, take an action. I can think of one situation where I didn't do that, and it wasn't a major issue, but I said the wrong thing to the wrong parent, and I spent a while at that school, and I was never able to successfully repair that relationship. And it was a hard lesson my first day being in that school. And I went against, I remember in my head talking to myself, but I went against my usual process because I was trying to please her. And in the end, it ended up coming around and not working out well for her. And I mean, it worked out, I guess, as well as it was, but that relationship I was never able to repair. So I really take time to explore, and in this case, we're working within our site, explore those pieces in the site. You know, as you're working through. Everything you need is in there. We did have a small little typo in one of the words where we had listen to instead of read. So we've changed the word to read. And then there was another article in the First Nation Métis and Inuit module with 3.4. There was a very heavy doctoral level article on social justice. That was not meant for our course. It wasn't there when we started, and I think with all the online courses that are happening, it accidentally got put in there. So if you read it, great. We had to read at it and kind of had a chuckle because it was very much around, I would say, in that space of serious literature. But we have removed it from the course. So I just wanted to kind of state a few of those items. All of that legislative piece, and I guess this whole module 3 really is about the nuts and bolts and the day-to-day operations of being a principal. Supporting your students with special needs. In part 2 right now, I'm having a great opportunity to read some of the practicums for people that have chosen special education as a focus. And another practicum somebody chose First Nations, Métis, and Inuit content as a focus for theirs. We also, someone else did the practicum on LGBTQ2S as well. So, I mean, all of those different pieces, this is certainly an area where if you haven't decided on a practicum topic yet, there's a lot in these 8 or 9 modules that gives you a lot of rich learning and rich opportunity.
So one of the first pieces of Module 3 that people set out and was special education, and that's something I have a specialist in it and taught the spec ed class in our school, one of the separate classes, and I also spent time on the special ed committee, and so it is something that is kind of, I guess you could say, near and dear to my heart, but I really believe in the universal design for learning, and that's the term that you'll find used now in the document, excellence for all. And what that really means is that the way learning in the school, in the classroom, and the school culture is designed is that it supports everybody. And so if there are tools needed, they're provided, and the tools are seamlessly integrated throughout. And we have some really exceptional examples in my own school of how that's done, and so I enjoy speaking about it. There was a couple comments, and I'd like to make a few. Around the idea of EQAO, and many of you may have seen, if you're already in administration or else you're in even special education or some of the other sort of program, what we call program positions, you may have already seen the memo come out. EQAO is moving in a way which I think is incredibly positive, because this is what we really, when we talk universal design for learning in our classrooms, this is what we're talking about, and that is everyone has the tool that they need to be successful. And EQAO has decided that those tools for accommodation no longer require an IEP to support them. And I know there were some comments, a lot of people get into we should create IEPs so they get good accommodations, and that raised some certain issues, because if we weren't having children on IEPs at all times, then why would we have them only for that time? So I want to say that, and really commend EQAO for they're very forward thinking, in that whatever tools children need to access and be able to be successful and demonstrate their thinking is what we need to give them. And I'll tell you a very quick little example I give, because sometimes parents will resist this, the idea that maybe my child needs an iPad, or maybe my child needs a specific technology. And the little example is that if I have to move a 300-pound TV, or my husband has to move a 300-pound TV, I'm going to need a dolly, and my husband can pick it up. And it's that simple. We've got the same job, but I'm going to need a tool. And that often helps people put it into clarity.
I'm just going to say her husband's a firefighter, so that's probably why he can lift a 300-pound TV. So as we move into Chapter 4, we do come back and revisit the question we asked you in the first module. From Simon Sinek. So just have a look there, see where your thinking is, if it's changed. For some of you, I often find that it becomes a little more solidified. And if most people, I find it doesn't change, but certainly it gives you some good data behind justifying your thoughts. And then we also have some work here around the connected leader and building relationships. And that, I think, is like worth its weight in gold. And we talk about, putting money in the piggy bank or filling someone's bucket, making sure that you do nurture those relationships and grow those relationships, because you will be putting in, but there may be some times when you need them to put into you. So people are willing to do that if they know there's reciprocity in that relationship. So on that note, we would like to thank you for your time and your effort, and we look forward to reading. We're just reading right now the case studies, so you'll be seeing in your assessment pieces the little marks popping in. Everything is pass or fail, so you'll see you got 100% or 0, and I would say everyone gets 100%, as long as they do it.
If you are not achieving, we will have let you know by now, and we will keep you apprised of that. So that's just something you should know.
Yeah, but if we haven't contacted you saying we have a concern, then we're happy with what you're doing. Okay, so you have a great week, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.